This episode is sponsored by Landlord. If you want 3 months of premium access to the app, you can do so down below in the description. And we have more on Landlord coming up in this show. Thanks so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 18 of the Canadian Real Estate Homefront podcast. I'm joined today with my awesome co-host, Brooke Hicks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That
was a lovely intro, wasn't that good?
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. What's going on?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I know.
Happy
This
Monday.
comes out probably on a Friday, though. So
Yes.
It's okay.
Happy Friday. Friday.
yeah, people will be
Better
enjoying
time to be listening
and enjoying some patio drinks.
to all the crappy stuff we're going to talk about in the
Yeah.
economy. It might be better to listen on a Monday.
Yeah, it actually might be. Save it for Monday.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, let's get into our first topic. This one was kind of a shakeup, not just in housing, but in the whole kind of liberal cabinet.
Ooh, honey, they shook the cabinet.
They shook the cabinet.
I like it.
You like that one?
I like it.
So Liberals appoint a new housing minister. The Trudeau Liberals shuffled the deck this past week, replacing several key cabinet members. Amongst those change was our housing minister, Ahmad Hussein. He's out, which should come as no surprise, given house prices have doubled under the current government with an election not far away. Hassan's track record since he took the job in 2021, so he hasn't even been that long, has been eventful to say the least. And his tone-deaf op-ed a few weeks ago was a final nail in the coffin. So he basically tweeted something.
He's taking the blame for everything.
Yeah, but he basically tweeted something about the Conservatives being so out of reality with house prices.
Yeah.
As house prices have surged, rent has surged as well.
Right.
And you're the housing minister.
Yeah.
So it's a little ironic.
Yeah.
So he was replaced by a guy called Fraser, who is the same guy in charge of immigration. So this
one's a funny one, right?
Yeah. So the same minister that ramped up immigration to mind-blowing levels in the midst of a housing supply crisis is now responsible for fixing the problem that he helped create. Yes, this is from Steve Saretsky. Yes, the arsonist has now become the firefighter. It's really good.
Interesting. So I don't think that they even announced this. It was leaked that he and the people that were let go, they stood up to say, I will no longer be running for re-election as the minister. So they weren't, I guess, coming out and saying that they were fired. They were just saying, I'm not re-electing. And then it was leaked that he shuffled up the cabinet. And I read that somebody, I guess, asked Trudeau, is this because you're almost in agreement that the government has failed during your past 8 years in power? And he said, actually, it's very much the contrary. We're doing this to support further.
If you're firing people, something's gone wrong. Let's just say it how it is. Yeah. I know it's like, we're replacing, but it's a nice way. It's kind of like going, you know how realtors now, instead of doing a price decrease, they go price improvement.
Price improvement instead
it's still a decrease. It's the same thing, right? And like, why is he shuffling up the cabinet? Basically why he's doing it, and I believe there were 7 positions that he changed. Obviously housing, this is the point of this podcast, that's what we're going to focus on, is because he's losing votes to the Conservatives in the polls, and a lot of them are young people, and a lot of people do believe it's the surging cost of living and because of housing. So I think this is a key contributor
to gearing up for the next election.
Yeah.
Because this is him now able to say, look, we understand there's been some things in the past couple of years that have been outside of our control, like COVID. This is us rearranging things, but what we believe in is still the core of why you guys were our voters. Now we're going to change things around so that these crises, we're not going into the future with the same problems or the next years of government. So I think it's him gearing up and him trying to get back some of the polls that he's losing. But the other governments are just slashing. And even the NDP, Jasmeet Singh, he was saying that over the last 8 years, the housing part of the government's job is completely failed. And it's interesting because they have a partnership, right?
Coalition,
so for him to come out and actually say the word failed while being in partnership with him, like that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme. So what has Sean Fraser said since being appointed? So he does say, naturally Canada's new housing minister says closing the door on newcomers is not the solution to the country's housing woes. The answer is, at least part, to continue to build more stock. Okay. But I would urge caution to anyone who believes the answer to our housing challenges is to close the door on newcomers. When I talk to developers in my capacity as a minister of immigration before today, one of the chief obstacles to completing the projects that they want to get done is having access to the labor force to build the houses that we need.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's his big kind of platform is we're not going to close the door to newcomers.
Right.
We need newcomers to come help build this supply shortage that we face.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds all good and well. So when you're a voter, and especially when you're a young person, you vote based on what you agree with. So a lot of it is your position as a government. So Justin Trudeau being more like the top down, higher taxes, but that helps the bottom earners, right, with the social programs in place and having a ton of involvement on the workforce and all of that. It's interesting to hear Pierre Poilievre now say that he used to be left wing, and because Pierre Poilievre, the way he even speaks is so right wing to me. It's like you are crazy right wing now, even just the tone of your voice. But he used to be liberal. But he was saying that he now wants our economy moving forward to look more like a, what do you call it, a free economy, like where he used the analogy of if somebody's benefiting, that should also benefit somebody else. So if you have an apple and I have an orange and I want what you have and you want what I have, we trade, we're both better off because of it. Or somebody goes to a coffee store and orders a coffee for $2.50. You pay your $2.50. The cashier says, here you go. You say thank you. She also says thank you. You're both better off because that coffee is worth more than the $2.50 you had. You're both better off. And then he relates Justin Trudeau to now having gone to this position of wanting to remain so much in power, and there's such a power struggle where the position that he was in when he was elected, he's losing that now, which is the compassionate approach. I want to take care, the health care, everything that all these policies that he's put in place. It's like a power grab. So everything he's saying regarding his change is a funny little drama movie.
He was a drama teacher.
Yeah. And you know what else is interesting, just to comment? In the 80s, when our misery index was the highest, which it was 12% inflation, 25% interest rates, 12% unemployment. So it was the highest misery index among Canadians ever. Pierre Trudeau was in power. And now look around with what's happening. Like everybody and their friends are like not as happy. Right?
Struggling.
Struggling is a good word to describe. A lot of people are struggling. I hear a lot of times, like, I'm not feeling great. Like things are hard right now. And so the misery index is going up. So he said, just as a dog returns to his vomit, like Justin being the son of Pierre, like our misery index is creeping up to levels when Pierre Trudeau is in government.
It's interesting. It'll be good. You know what? It'll be, with the election coming up, I think we'll probably see a record amount of voters come out in Canada. And also it'll be good to see the debates. It'll be good to see, what position, which party takes. And I feel
like there's going to be more hostility involved in it.
Yeah. Well, the American election's coming up first, so maybe that'll allow people to get some pent up demand out.
Well, in previous elections, like even when Stephen Harper was in government, it wasn't so much of a crazy huge divide and volatility and like back and forth and putting each other down. Like obviously there's debates that happen and you're trying to oppose the other person's position. So that happens, but there wasn't so much hostility with people's positions, right? If you were on one side and another person was on one side, you kind of respected each other's opinions on who you're going to vote for in government. Now it's like, it is even more of a touchy subject. Like if, you hear a right wing say, I actually believe in what Justin Trudeau is trying to accomplish. There are social programs that really help me, and whatever the case may be, you're
on one side of the fence or the other.
Hostility when you mention government. It used to be only American politics that would create fights.
Yeah, it was.
Now it's Canadian politics as well. Like we are following suit, and
I think a lot of it has to do with almost social media too, because now you have these like quick 15 to 30 second clips of them. Yeah. But when Stephen Harper was in power, like social media, it was there. But what was it? Facebook or a little bit of Instagram? Like now you're getting these quick hits and you can see the passion people have even on our
They are
even on our
fired
podcast,
up.
like we have I think we have a relatively small following compared
Yeah.
to some of these people. So yeah, people are.
They get fired up if your belief system is threatened by somebody else's views. It's like attack mode, and that used to only be really seen in American politics. It's like American politics, just no one bring up American politics.
Yeah.
That was the thing in a room. Just no one talk about American politics. And Canadian was a little bit more softer. But
You know what? It's unproductive at the end of the day. That's what it really is. It's just
Yeah.
like you try and have a conversation about something, and someone who's uneducated just says, especially
Really?
on our podcast,
Right.
you're racist because you're white. You can't have an opinion on immigration, and it's just it's so unproductive and so stupid. But that's the reality that we're in. But
I
people
think there's
are
too
fired
much
up and mad.
information being given out too. There's so much opposing information, so much just little things here and there that there's no one big picture that everybody kind of is able to see.
Yeah.
You have to get your information from little snippets of Instagram, TikTok, one press release, Pierre going off against Trudeau, like everything, the news, even Fox News versus CNN, so opposing. So there's here's the picture of what needs to happen for Canadians to benefit long term. There's no working together. It's like it's a power struggle right now with them, and I don't love to see it. But at the end of the day, they're still gonna.
We'll see where it goes.
They're gonna. I think that they're gonna probably see their polls come back with that, because people that aren't right wing and don't like the right wing way of thinking will still follow Trudeau, and especially with this new cabinet change up and the hope that they will be more aligned with fixing our housing. I think people will.
I disagree. I think a lot of people have left.
Do you think
and lost trust?
Do you think Pierre's going to be voted into?
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because right now he's running the polls of being even just. Well, he'll definitely win that. I don't even.
Well,
know
if he wins young people,
He
a lot of old people are more conservative than liberal. Like if you do talk to a lot of our parents, and the reason why Justin Trudeau has done so well is because he won the hearts of young people in 2015. And he did it again. And now that tide is changing and it's evident in the polls.
Well, back to the free economy approach that he was talking about. Justin Trudeau, like our tax is absolutely crazy. That video that you sent me with us being taxed at 53%, then you add on carbon tax, then you add on our gas tax, then you pay
everything on groceries.
You're at like 70%. So
that erodes your income.
It's crazy. And back to that free, like if I give you money, it should benefit both of us. And that's how we both kind of grow. And that's how economy grows. It's like a free, the free part of it is that I actually think that I'm better off having giving you my $2.50 and now having my coffee, right? That's the free part. But with the taxes and all these tax laws and raising taxes, which is liberals' way of fixing things, there's no choice. You can't say, oh, I don't actually want the services that these taxes are paying for. It's not worth it to me. I don't want to pay it. You have to. So it's almost forceful. It's like government is like legalized force.
Yeah. Yeah. And like even in that video I sent you to, it's like, why would you do business in Canada when you just get taxed to death? Yeah. So that's why a lot of people go to the States.
Yeah.
That's why they're more productive. They have a better GDP per capita. So
yeah. Yeah, what Kevin O'Leary was saying about how much we lose per day in untapped resources, something like
48 million
in untapped resources per day.
Per day.
Think of how much more productivity, GDP per capita you
could get more tax money because we'd be making more money.
Exactly.
Yeah. More people would be employed. There'd be more jobs. There'd be more tax revenue. It's a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, topic number 2. Okay, this report's by TD, so it's not by us, it's by TD. Let's preface that. It says too far, too fast. TD Bank report warns policymakers need to keep up with immigration surge as it affects the economy. Canada's record-setting immigration is a necessary remedy to the country's labor shortage and aging population. But a new report from TD warns that there may be a knock-on effects if policymakers don't ensure that economic and social infrastructures is able to keep up with the growth. While population growth is a good thing, TD economists said in the report the benefits erode if it occurs too fast relatively to a country's ability to plan and absorb new entrants within the economic and social infrastructures. If Canada continues to have annual population growth of 1 million or more people, TD estimates the housing shortfall, or the gap between supply and demand, could reach 500,000 units by 2025 as growth collides with downswing in the housing construction. It's pretty crazy.
The downswing, we always mention the downswing in housing construction, but
What we don't talk about with housing construction is I know there's a labor shortage, so it's important,
right.
but also housing construction isn't feasible right now because rates are so high. That's what people need to
Exactly.
also consider too.
Yes.
Although we might need immigrants to come in and help us build, and skilled immigrants too, there's also the high rates is also holding people
Yeah.
back from building more units
Yeah.
too. So
When I lived in North Oakville, I remember knowing where the government housing was. Government housing was like something I think you knew, but you don't see any new government housing
you
being
don't.
built.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a common thing. And then you think about the single moms or, you know, whatever the case may be, that need subsidized rent because they have larger families, maybe more kids. The wait time is like 15 years or something. It's insane.
Yeah.
So the government housing, when they bought pieces of land like that, there's still a ton of land. Go north of Dundas, there's tons. Why aren't those being?
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Why?
Like, why is the
Just don't-
government not getting involved
I
in
just
building?
don't even get why. But I mean, a block of townhouses, you solve 20 people's problem, right?
Yeah.
So it needs to be at scale.
But why doesn't the government build more apartments or something like that? Because
Government in Burlington,
can print
the building, they're all old.
they can
so
print
used
money.
to.
Yeah, they can print money.
Print
Yeah, we know
We've
that.
seen
Yeah.
that.
So why not fund these government kind of housing condo apartments for people, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thought because right now it's all developers, and developers, you have to incentivize a developer to build. They have to be making a profit. They have to pay a lot of people. There's a lot of risk involved.
Yeah.
So that has to be something where it's a capitalistic game. But at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need a free market so people do build. And if developers aren't building, why doesn't the government step in and start talking about building homes for maybe less fortunate people, or like you said,
I'm seeing now all these little tiny homes and mobile homes and like 155,000
laneway homes. Yeah,
Home Depot. They're actually pretty cute. I feel like those might come into style a little bit.
Yeah, I think the big thing though with those is like you have to set up, the hydro, the electrical. Like it ends up being a lot more expensive than what people actually think.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of getting into a land lease and stuff like that. But I mean, if you made it attractive enough, you could get people doing it. But the mobile home.
So immigration, obviously, and historically has been a very good thing for our economy.
For sure, yeah.
That last year's numbers were astronomical. But if you look at the aging population of the baby boomers, this year and the next couple of years, our baby boomers are retiring. That is a significant portion of our jobs, the baby boomers.
Yeah.
So I see where those numbers came from. We halted immigration during COVID, and then we increased because we halted. And with the aging population, to fill those jobs, like we don't want job vacancies. So I see where it came from, but not having the solution on the other end is obviously the problem. So I guess this guy now, having done that, moving to being now the housing minister, will be interesting to see, and like his next move on what his solution.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's against immigration. I think it's an important thing to state is that it's just like, what's the plan for it? Like, how can we make it so our economy doesn't have so much pressure in both the economic and social aspects of Canada? Like, how do we make it, what's the plan other than just letting over 1 million people when we have a housing supply crisis, we have a healthcare crisis. Like, I think we talked on this podcast before is that even doctors are coming here and they're working in retail or something like that. Like, why, if we have a shortage in doctors, and I'm not an expert on this in any way, but it just seems like it's pretty black and white. Like, why are they not getting their applications accepted to become a doctor? Why are they working in retail? So it's an interesting sort of.
I don't even have anything to comment on that. It kind of boggles my mind.
Yeah, it does.
Hearing that stat, the people that are so educated and came here for an education and end up not even close to where they thought they would be.
That was one of our best viewed videos too.
It's insane. And I think a lot of people have gone through it, especially people that
real life stories.
Real life stories. Reading those comments of they came here for education because Canada's education system is supposed to be one of the elite, right? Top however many in the world.
Yeah, Canada's really safe too.
Exactly. And then that not being as useful as you would think, or even a doctor's starting out salary, how much you're taxed.
Yeah. I think in Ontario, they make about 200,000 as a doctor.
Okay, and so you're giving 53% plus you're paying 13% HST
Yeah,
plus every carbon tax, gas tax. Like
yeah.
70% is what you should expect.
Yeah.
And then take home what's 30% of 260 grand. Now afford a house for you and your family. Your mortgage is over 5K a month. Now you have nothing.
Yeah. You're renting.
And you're a doctor.
Yeah. Ooh. That's eerie.
That is eerie.
Ooh, all right. Topic 3. This episode is brought to you by Landlord. Landlord's an easy-to-use app that is perfect for landlords or property investors. It allows you to track your cash flow or IRR, and there's a suite of other features within the app. You can get started for free down below in the description, and you can even use it as a deal analyzer that will help you make the right decision on your first rental property. We thank you guys so much for the support, and we're so excited that we're partnering with Landlord.
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
Did you just do the immigration one?
I did, yeah. Get topic 3 up.
Okay.
You're actually good at reading, so.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good at reading.
You are, yeah. You're better than
Thank
me, yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're more smooth.
I'm more smooth. Topic 3, consumer spend. Oh,
yeah,
can
that's
you just read this one? Okay.
No.
Topic 3, consumer spending is a double-edged sword as Bank of Canada tries to control inflation. When the Bank of Canada restarted monetary policy tightening in June, it placed the blame for more interest rate hikes squarely on consumers. Rapid fire rate increases last year were supposed to have squeezed household budgets and forced people to cut back on spending. By early summer, however, it looked like many Canadian shoppers had missed the memo. Spending blew past expectations in the first quarter, aided by unseasonably warm weather in January. Through the spring, Canadians continued to splurge on travel, entertainment, and restaurants. More unexpected was the strength of the rebound in goods spending, particularly in the demand for interest rate-sensitive goods like furniture and appliances. Paul Beaudry, one of the bank's deputy governors, said after the June announcement, justifying the resumption of rate hikes after a 5-month pause. The resilience of the Canadian consumer has surprised economists and confounded central bankers. Fueled by pent-up demand for in-person services as the COVID-19 pandemic has faded and bolstered by high immigration and a strong labor market, consumer spending has remained remarkably sturdy through the first half of this year, despite rising prices and the most aggressive interest rate hiking cycle in decades.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this before too. Like consumer spending is such an important metric as to why they pause or they keep raising rates, right? So it's such an important metric because if people are still spending, then we understand that, inflation is still going to surge. And I think like something important too is pent up demand.
Revenge spending.
Yeah. So many people were locked up in COVID, and even people still talk about this today. Is like, I lost 2 years of my life. Like
right.
I'm going out and enjoying
how
it.
much is that worth to somebody? Because you hear
trip to Italy.
Trip to Italy. Exactly. Exactly. Even now with people having not as much maybe money in their bank, people are still like, don't even care. Like, I just want to go. I'll figure it out. Less than I want to, save for a bright future. It's like, F everything that's going on. I'm doing this. I'm going to enjoy my life now. And a lot of the spending too, it's so annoying to me that it's not measured properly, because the people that got in the market last year, they're not spending $1 over anything that is not a necessity. And people like our parents, sure, why wouldn't they redecorate their house?
Yeah.
Right now? They don't have rates.
I think 1/3 of Canadians are mortgage free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's 33% of our population that is mortgage free. So there's some people that probably have no idea about the rates. They're just in their own little world. Great. I watch the news sometimes, but very few and far between. I want a new couch. I want to go on a vacation. whatever the case may be.
Bring the kids, bring the dog.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, rent prices have gone up, but if you've rented from 5 years ago till like a 5-year-old rental lease, that's probably in relative to affordable, I would say. You can only increase it a certain amount per year. Maybe you're locked into an affordable lease.
What if you get kicked out too?
It's tough to kick renters out, though.
No, but I mean, if you go to put up for sale, you're on a month to month, you're out.
If the buyer moves in, that's true. That is true, but it's not everywhere.
No, I know, but it's true, right? Like you could be in a lease for 10 years. And I've heard people like talk about like how cheap their lease is, and it's like, oh my God, I hope they don't sell that house anytime soon. They're like, I'm paying $1,500. I'm in Liberty Village. And then they've just been there for 10 years, right? They've just been there forever. So like now you're looking at $3,000 if you get kicked out.
Here's a tip for people that are renting. So after your 12 months term, you default to month to month. If your landlord decides to sell that house, the landlord can't kick you out because of the reason of selling, but they can sell with you in it. And if you're given 24 hours notice, other representatives are able to come into the property to show it. You can't say no with legal notice on your door. And then if it sells and the new buyer wants to move in, they can serve you notice. And then that's a point where you actually have to leave. Now, here's kind of a way around. After your 12-month term, you go month to month. They can only kick you out if you're month to month. So if they come in on month 7, you have the right to finish out your lease term. So after month 12, go to your landlord and say, hey, I'm willing to stay. Are you willing to keep me? Let's sign a new lease. I just want it for my documentation for taxes or something like that.
Yeah.
Sign a new lease. Because then
for another 12 months.
Then even if your landlord sells it and the buyer wants to move in,
They
you
can't.
have the right
Yeah.
to stay out the terms of your lease. Month to month, they can kick you out. Sign a 2-year lease.
Yeah.
Well, it's dependent on your situation. If you have plans on moving or buying.
Even today, it's like, oh.
But sign a new lease, even if it's, okay, now here's the one thing. The landlord, if you're signing a new lease, can increase the rent because it's a new lease to market rent. Yeah. But it's a conversation you have with the landlord. Like, hey, I want to stay. Do you want to keep me? Do you mind if we sign a new lease? I need it for taxes, right? Then the buyer has to assume you and you live out that lease term. Don't just default to month. Maybe have that conversation, but then at that point, the landlord can increase the rent a little bit. So it's kind of one of those tricky little.
Hey, can we sign up for another year at the same price? Yeah.
Look just over there.
Yeah, no, it's an important point too. So yeah, I mean, consumer spending is big. I think it'll cool, especially as we hit the winter months. I think that everyone's excited. Summer's been good, lots of travel. Pent up demand, but I think in the winter months it's kind of cool. You'll see less people on patios, obviously, because it's winter. But I think that people will start cutting back more, and the data is always a lagging indicator. I think the data will start to show that people have stopped spending as much money as time goes on. So that's my 2 cents. I think we'll see it in the data come, fall, winter time.
It's crazy to see how busy malls are.
It's summer though. Like it's just like everyone loves
winter. Like you can't get a parking spot in any mall around here.
Yeah, that's fair.
But again, think of how many people are in a lease that they haven't been kicked out because rent's only really skyrocketed in the past 3 years. Like it was affordable before that.
It was, yeah.
So if you're locked into a lease or you don't have a mortgage or you have a mortgage but you're renting out the basement or you live with somebody else where things are kind of affordable,
you're mortgage
free. Only a certain little subsection of people that are drastically hurt by these rates.
Yeah.
These people are still going to spend. They're still going to live their life. So
yeah.
You want to control these people by hurting these guys, stomp on them as much as absolutely possible until it starts affecting these guys too.
Yeah.
But these guys are going to be substantially more hurt in the meantime. And it's just
is what it is. Yeah. I mean, let's just keep people updated, keep the data coming, and we love data. So we'll update you on what's going on. But yeah, consumer spending is important. And this kind of leads into our next topic. So I'm going to try and explain this as best I can about bond yields and stuff. And then
so my
you tell me.
Newest realtor on my team says she listens to our podcast, loves our podcast, but there's certain terminology that she doesn't understand. So I'm like, okay. For her being a real estate agent, there's definitely people that have no idea what you're going to say. So preface it with what a bond yield is.
I will.
Compared to what a variable rate and a fixed rate is and where those products are.
Okay, so why I'm doing this too is because someone messaged me because I posted on our Instagram story showing the bond yield went over 4%.
Yeah.
And I said, this is bad for fixed rates.
Oh, and they said, why is it bad?
And someone go, why is it bad? So let me explain this.
Got it.
So Canadian mortgages to surge higher as bond yield hits a 16-year high. So buckle up. Canadian mortgage rates are about to climb even further in the coming weeks. The Government of Canada's 5-year bond closed Thursday at a 16-year high. The yield directly influences a key mortgage rate, meaning interest costs are about to head in that direction as well. So what does this mean? So the bond yield is basically people can buy government bonds and they can say you have $100,000. You're like, I want to buy something safe, which is a government bond, which the government usually uses to, build roads or something of that nature. And then basically what happens is they give you a yield depending on what the bond yield is. So the yield is just the return you get on your $100,000.
And they're usually like 2-year
Yeah, the most popular one's a 5-year bond.
Yeah.
So that one, you can lock it up for 5 years. Sometimes they're 1, sometimes they're 2.
So you
it
know what
depends.
your return is going to be
The
because
longer you hold,
yield.
the better the yield. The longer the term, usually the better the yield. So in this case, the yield just went it's around 4% right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you give the government of Canada $100,000, they're going to give you 4% on your money at maturity when that bond actually matures and you get your money back.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the 100,000 back plus the 4% interest that you gained. So why this has to do with rates? So rates, the fixed rate, not the variable rate, the fixed rate is connected to this because that's what the Bank of Canada looks at. And then the big banks look at this and then they offer a 2% premium on that rate. So right now it's 4. So your rates are looking about 6% right now. And why do they do that? It's safer to put your money in a government bond because the government can print money. They can pay you back whenever they want. Versus a household, which is, someone could default on their mortgage. They could lose their job. That's how it kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
So am I explaining that okay?
Yes. So
okay.
The fixed rates are
connected to the bond yield.
Connected to the bond, and the Bank of Canada sets the overnight rate.
Yeah, they set the overnight rate, which affects the variable rate. Yeah.
So they're very, very different. So sometimes people, when they're choosing, like the variable rate is completely separate than the fixed rate. People think that the Bank of Canada just kind of sets these rates. No, the Bank of Canada only sets the overnight rate, which is your variable rate. So if you're choosing a fixed rate mortgage product, it is 100% attached to these bond yields.
Yeah. So yeah, basically just like you said, right? The variable rate, when you see Tiff Macklin say, I'm raising rates, what that does is it hits variable rate holders. Then the bond market trades. So people trade the bond market. They trade bonds all day long.
Yep.
It's a little bit over my head, but they trade bonds and it sets the price because it's by these traders. But the traders are also looking at what the Bank of Canada is doing. Like they're taking data and that's the way they're trading.
Yeah.
So what this means is like, okay, well, I have a fixed rate. It doesn't really matter. But if you come up for renewal, you're going to have to say you did a 3-year fixed. Now you're coming up for renewal. You had a 2%. Now you're at 6%. Right. Scary. Say you want to buy a house right now. It's a 6% interest rate. Not cheap. The highest it's been since 2001 or something like that. So that's the difference there. Yeah. So when the bond yield rises, it means that interest rates on mortgages are going to rise if you get a mortgage right then and there. Yeah. Does that sound good?
Yes.
I hope I made sense of that.
It does.
Okay, so the government of Canada's bond yield is one of the most important credit indicators. Since credit is competitive, the yield of these bonds influences the cost of loans over similar terms. So the government of Canada's 5-year bond continues to surge. It climbed 10 basis points over the past 5 trading days to 4.009% on Thursday. The yield is about 129 points higher than last year and the highest since November of 2007. Everyone remembers the crash of 2008.
It'd be interesting to say why we think that because, again, the bond yield is primarily dictated by literally traders. There's nobody setting it. There's nobody like putting in a rate. It's traders, just like a stock that makes a stock go up and makes a stock go down. Yeah. So it's traders having an inkling on what's going to happen and trading things.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So they're obviously expecting something when they go up. You remember when the bank failures happened in February? Was that February, March?
Yeah, I don't even remember.
See, it was such a little blip.
It was a little blip, yeah.
When that happened, the bond yields were seriously affected. Didn't it do like a wild change overnight?
I think it did. Yeah, and it's continued to go up. So even since May, it's gone up 100 basis points. So yeah, at the beginning of the year, we saw prices pretty much kind of going this like almost rocket ship up, especially in the GTA. Yeah. It's like $100,000 increase. Yeah. Mostly because the Bank of Canada was pausing. People were thinking, oh, we're going back to normal. Maybe then now they're putting the pressure on again. So to see them pause and increase, right? The Bank of Canada, it's made bond traders say, hey, we're staying higher for longer. There's probably more pain to come. And that's why the bond yield is what it is. So just look at the bond yield. You'll see what the traders are doing. Smarter people than us are trading bonds. So it's a good indicator of what's to come. And I hope that helps because sometimes we do talk, especially me.
We say
things that people are like, what's going on? So hopefully that helps clarify some stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember when we first met and you were talking about a bond deal and I was like, you're too smart for me.
I actually explained this to you. Now you get it really well. Yeah, that's why we started this pod.
we started the pod over
based off bond yields. Yeah.
Like, I
actually remember calling you and explaining it to you.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Just fill me in. Just fill me in and I'm going to make it into a TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I'll take everything you've taught me and put it out on social
Now
media.
you're a pro.
No,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah,
That's
there you
so
go.
funny. We started this podcast over the bond yield conversation. Yeah, we did.
And you know what? I know it's dry. I know it's boring, but at the end of the day, this kind of stuff helps educate people, especially when they go to buy a home. And that's the most important thing about this podcast is that we try and educate people literally for free so they make better decisions than they'll get themselves in trouble. Right?
Exactly.
That's why we do it.
That was powerful.
Inspiring.
I felt it. It was inspiring. I
It's the
felt
truth.
that.
It's the truth. There's too many.
Wow.
There's too much bad advice out there. I'm not saying we give the best advice, but we do try and educate people as much as we can. And that's the whole goal of this thing.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people's opinions on these podcasts and different advice and who to
Not
listen
another
to.
real estate podcast.
Yeah. It's like, what should I do? It's like, okay, let's bring it back to the basics here. Okay. Can you afford the house as it is right now? Is it going to serve you better to be in this house? Is it bigger for your family? Is it in the location you want to live in because of work? Do you love the house?
Yeah.
Okay. Noise aside.
There was that strip mall guy on Twitter and he reposted it.
That is what
That was a really good quote. It was really good. Buy a house because you don't expect it to like triple in value.
Buy a house because you like it.
Because you like it and you need it for your family.
And you need it for your family.
Yeah. And
if you can afford it, excellent.
Yeah.
Like a benefit if it goes up. Don't buy a house for an investment always.
It's great advice.
It is great because we're getting
Simple.
lost in the noise.
Yeah.
There is cloud.
Should I buy today? You know, is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Like
everybody's vision is clouded everywhere you go. It's like those little doodles I see on YouTube with people just walking with their heads on their phone, walking through street traffic and just not having any idea of anything that's going on because there's just too much noise. The social media has blocked everybody's vision. Bring it back to the basics.
I agree.
Bring it down to like 5-year-old level. How do you explain to a 5-year-old if you should buy a house or not? Well, do you like the house?
Do you
afford
it? Yeah. Will I make a lot of money? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
you shouldn't
you shouldn't buy it for that reason.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that.
Obviously, there's different ways of real estate. I do a lot of investment real estate.
If you do investment, it's a different game.
It's
but
different.
Yeah.
But should I buy it? Timing the market. Oh, maybe I'll get a better deal in September. Do you like this house or do you not? Do you think there's a better one, better suited for your family based on layout, location, size, price? Like maybe price is what I'm saying, not to
Yeah. Do you
judge.
love where you live? Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different factors that I just like going back to the basics, like you just said.
To the basics.
Yeah. I love it. There's too many people with predictions and it's just it's too painful.
I'm getting tired of listening to it. I love my job, but it's to the point where it's like,
yeah.
That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah. Am I going to be rich? You know, like, I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't do this.
If I wait a month to buy this house, it will be worth less. Like,
listen, if I could see into the future, I wouldn't be doing this job because I would have made so much more money on sports betting and the lottery numbers. Like, it's just, I don't know if you're going to make a bunch of money.
We're expected to know everything though. If any little thing happens, aside from what we predict, it's like, hey, you told me.
Back in 2020, you said this.
So I try to not give direct advice. It's just, I don't have a crystal ball, but this is
this is what the data shows.
Generally how things go up. Take conservative numbers when you're running them. If you are looking for investment real estate, but all in all, does it work for your family and can you afford it now?
Yeah. It's good advice. You got anything else? That's it. All right. I'll wrap it up. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, we really appreciate you guys listening to the long form. I know the long form is longer to listen to versus the short form stuff.
The long form's longer.
The long form is longer. But please like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a review on the podcast. It helps push it out to other people. As well, if you're on Instagram, TikTok, we are on those platforms as well. And YouTube Shorts. Please follow us there for some shorter content. It's like a minute long. That's where we have the most followers and the most people
on Instagram.
Like DM us topics. We're gonna try and get some guests on here too. So we got lots of good stuff to come.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and we'll see you next week.